Get started here, you guys.
Unmuted.
There should be. Is there some up there?
You're there. How did you get crushed in here? Because it's me right outside the door. Right.
I don't know how long.
Let's call this meeting of December 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we got a busy agenda today, so can I get an agenda approval, please?
Move to approve.
Second by Councilmember Crossman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. And I'm sorry, I didn't have the city clerk take the roll. Would you please take the roll, and Councilmember Blair is excused.
Okay. Councilmember Richardson. Councilmember Crossman.
Here.
Councilmember Smith. Here. Councilmember Hess. Councilmember Brooks. Here. Councilmember Kaminsky. Here. So.
Here. All right, and now we have our special presentations, and under this, we have a proclamation honoring the high school, Yelm High School's 2022 State of Washington 3 football champions. So we will, we have a big contingent of the group here today, and we'll have them come on in. We'll read the proclamation, quick picture, and move along. We have a proclamation for each and every one of the students too. So come on in.
Come on in.
You're the first one. Just line up, kind of, yeah, just wrap around towards the flag here. There's a lot of you.
Keep going that way, yeah?
Yeah, let's just keep wrap around. There's probably like 50 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we can get them all.
They're not. There's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah.
I just bought a lot of groceries over there.
You guys can kind of double up right here if you want to.
Get to the back.
All right. Just keep moving down, right? You are a little bit more.
Come on. Yeah. Keep coming.
I got room on my lap for a couple. Trace might be on the lap.
Will wants to be on that.
DJ does.
All right, we got them all in here. So first of all, this is the state champions. Let's give them a round of applause. We have a proclamation. Every one of you will get one of these. I got one as a like a 10-year-old or so for seeing the president. Yeah, we got from the legislature. We're gonna try to do that again for you guys too, to make sure that you're honored by the state legislature. But for right now, we got the city for you. So we have a mayoral proclamation honoring the Yelm High School's 2022 State of Washington 3 football champions. Whereas the hard work, dedication, sportsmanship, and talent of the 2022 Yelm High School Tornado football team has enabled these student athletes to earn the Washington State 3A football championship. And whereas winning the 2022 3A Washington State Championship brought honor to the Yelm High School and the city of Yelm on the local, state, and national level. And whereas the historic team went undefeated this season and won the first state football championship title for the city of Yelm. And whereas quarterback Damian Milano passed for 2,478 yards and 29 passing touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Whereas halfback Braden Platt led the team in total rushing yards with 1,242 yards on 132 carries, 24 touchdowns, and no fumbles. And whereas wide receiver Kyler Ronquillo led the team in receiving with 953 yards on 67 receptions and 11 touchdowns. And whereas middle linebacker Ray Wright led the team defensively with 130 tackles, 6 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. And whereas head coach Jason Ronquillo and the entire coaching staff, the team, parents, the faculty, and student body at Yelm High School were integral in guiding the team to victory through their unwavering support. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Joe DePeno, Mayor of the City of Yelm, do hereby recognize and honor the Yelm High School football team as the 2022 Washington State 3A football champions. Signed this City of Yelm the 13th day of December 2022. Let's give them a round of applause. Well, I mentioned out some of the key players and the leaders for rushing, for passing and all that. But obviously it's much more than just those players. We had one heck of an offensive line, allowing 1 sack. If you're on the offensive line, could you raise your hand? Offense, defense, on all 4 cylinders. You guys were doing great. You made Yelm proud. You did a wonderful job. And we still got a lot of you for a few more years too. Let us see the seniors. Recognize all the seniors here too. Raise your hand. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you for what you did, elevating Yelm, bringing us up to the top as well. We appreciate you, Coach. Really good job what you've done with these young men over the past, 4 years now, 5 years that you've been?
Been a decade.
Been a decade.
2013.
Jeez, you built this team though, and it's been great watching you, and hopefully you bring another state championship to us next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, young man. Thank you. Well, here's a little proclamation. We'll get you one when we get out of here. So
Yeah, you guys go ahead. Glad to see you guys.
Pretty disappointed you didn't go with Seahawks on Sunday.
Oh, there, I was trying.
I know.
Yeah. You can see my friend.
I know. You get. Here's my go. Look at.
Yeah. Good to have you.
Good one. See ya. I'll see you around. See you around. Thanks. How you doing?
How are you?
How's life? Orlando's the only Rockville there. There you go. Tennessee the next, right? Good, Kyle. How's life? Good, Jack. Working hard?
Thanks for coming.
COVID killed that.
Yeah. Keep pumping that beer, dude.
See you later.
Keep working.
Shaving at 13.
No.
Here's your 100%.
Where you going?
No free hot dogs.
Take a seat. James in here. Go in. Come on, man.
No, I'm not. Got itchy eyes.
Right, okay, yeah.
Thank you guys.
Alrighty. City Council with a little once in a lifetime opportunity, I guess. But that was cool. All right, moving on to public comment, and we have at least one speaker. Is there anyone online?
If anyone online would like to speak, if you could raise your hand and let us know, but we do have one person in the audience, Harry Miller.
All right, Santa Claus, please.
This is my invitation, Joe.
It is. So we got 3 minutes to speak, especially if it's on and for these, if it's on something that's on the
All
agenda.
way through, these are kind of my notes here.
If it's on the agenda, go ahead and talk about it during that time, but I don't believe this is, so you're good.
It's on my agenda, 6 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leave me on the nice list, we'll give you some more time.
All right, I like that. I just want to know what's going on with Jerk Juicy Barbecue. It's like,
We all do, yeah.
yeah, it's all, look, I'm out of this town and it's like, really?
Yeah.
I just got used to that good flavor.
They're coming in after you.
Yeah.
We got them next.
Oh, this- Am I burning up my 3 minutes yet?
No, you're good.
Okay.
A little lenient for Santa Claus.
Okay. All right. Thank you, council, mayor, manager, fine esteemed council. I became a Bald Hills Fire Commissioner in 2003. And one of my first priorities was to say, this is our town, we will be in the parade. We had a fair amount of resistance because we're just Bald Hills. This is our town. I'm not a resident, but I've vested interest in Yelm. Recently, I've added Santa to my resume. I like to think I'm a little different as I don't follow the dollar or even inside venues. I go where the kids are. Through the COVID lockdown, I did what I could to give families the Santa experience, and it's pained me greatly to have 2 Christmas parades canceled. It's not about Santa, it's about our community. I'm currently giving each YCS school a Santa by the road experience as they arrive for class. Tomorrow, I will have completed all 9 schools. And it is my pleasure to do that. It is so much fun to watch the kids come in on the bus and they'll all run to one side because Santa's out there in front of their school. And anyway, I've been doing some exploring. Number one is the construct of the decision to cancel the Christmas parade 2 years running. I think I understand a little more how that process is done and who makes the decision. And I heard initially there was a standing committee, but there is not. It's a kind of a loose consortium of this council and the police, and I believe the school has some input. I had some pretty good conversations with Drew, fine person. The interesting thing I found is that the chamber gets nailed for the canceling of the parade. And that's a little painful being a chamber member because the decision is not made by the chamber. It's made within this loose group. And they do the registration and they collect the money and the people pretty much direct the vitriol at them. So that's something that's kind of interesting. My overall concern is by canceling 2 years in a row, we've created some inertia and probably some atrophy in those who would participate in the parade. The commitment from this body should be to celebrate the community first and recruit as needed. The recruitment and communication with the community needs help. My fear is that this body has become the voice of no because that's easier, not the affirmation and possibility of yes, we will find a way. Roy and Rainier both have Christmas parades. I don't think we're better by them by canceling ours. Then I'll just keep rolling because I've been tied into so much of the community. I'm hearing lots of things. Yum decorations and lighting. The water tower is epic. The park and the city are tragic as far as what is going on and what isn't going on. And we need to visit the rules of parade participation. There are businesses that have been alienated by what is and is not permitted. And I don't know all of those rules, but I'm banging into this with people who are part of the chamber. The chamber is in transition. The website is not functional. The office is dark half of the week. And we've hired a chamber executive that is not a resident of Yelm. 300 members are on their own for a lot of their information and promotion. If we're going to have a healthy culture of community support, the chamber has to be robust. As a member, I'm frequently frustrated and it's not right when the chamber shoulders the blame for canceled parades. On a positive note, we have the best ever volunteers with the city, Yelm Community Schools, and community at large. We have so much to build on. I love the water tower, splash pad, and dog park. The running of Prairie Days and the registration for the Christmas parade were stunning improvements. The Tornado football team gave us cover for the canceled parade. It does not excuse it. We should have celebrated our team last year. They were amazing. Also, the Twisters and Cheer are representing us very well this season. This body needs to excel at celebrating the best things that our community, in our community, starting with our families and their children. Yelm is a town of givers. We need to not be stingy with our praise and celebration. We can stop traffic for 5 or 50. It's time for a re-engagement and a new vision. Sincerely, Harry Miller, also known as Santa.
Thank you, Santa.
I'm not here to cause trouble, but I'm saying we need to focus on some things.
Sure.
And
So, there's a couple things on there I'd like to address, and if council wants to go and have questions, comments, great. So first of all, it is a partnership, a decision to do these things for Christmas in the park between the chamber, the schools, and the city. The city's aspect is mainly on the policing, the controlling of the roadways, shutting down the roadways. It takes a lot on our end. We hire outside of those, not we don't hire, but we contract with outside agencies as well. Because we don't have enough police officers to close all the roads for one of those parades. That being said, I've heard it. I get it. I was a little disappointed that the parade was canceled as well this year. We are not going to be canceling next year. We will have one. So it likely be a night parade. Yeah, you can hold me to that. All these promises I make, and they're all alive now. I shouldn't make too many, but this is one that we are gonna do.
Politician's supposed to promise the people.
Promise the people,
Do it.
follow through. That's why I don't make a lot of promises. I only wanna make the promises we can follow through on. But we will have a Christmas parade next year. It's likely to be a night parade. The city's gonna take more of the, if you wanna call it the blame, we will, but we're gonna take the lead 100% on this. We still have a lot of partners that are very critical to it, but the city will ensure that there will be a Christmas parade next year for sure.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I understand there's a lot of people that, are upset that we canceled it. If we actually did have it, it would have been very minimal. And for the parade entrance, different floats and all that, it does cost money to run these. It is fairly expensive, but like I said, it's sometimes there's events here that,
Well, I know the fees that are charged for the registration they're really minimal.
sure,
So being able to cover part of the cost for the police involvement and closing down the roads and all of that
and
stuff,
not just police.
that has to come from
Yeah,
a different pot.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Hess.
Bringing up the cost. I think we need to be a little bit honest on what the costs are. I had an extensive conversation with Administrator Stansel, having been the former police chief, to get a cost to just hold a parade. For personnel alone, we're looking at $8,000 to $10,000. Not only that, but we are at the crossroads of 510, 507, which are state routes, not city routes, which means that we have to give advance notice to the state that we're going to shut those down.
Sure.
And it has to be coordinated. So it can't be just a 1 week in advance. This is months in advance that need to be done. And you're right, we need to be doing more to celebrate things. But we also, as you said, the entrance fee is very minimal. Here's my question. 5 people, 1 person walking through town for a parade or whatever, is it worth the taxpayers of the city of Yelm to come out of our budget for every parade? Is it worth $8,000 to $10,000 when there's very little participation and all? And you added that we're waiting for this, sir. We are the city, we're the city council. We didn't shut the parade down. Okay, the city council didn't shut the parade down. It was other people involved. City council, we support the parade, but we didn't budget for the parade. We don't sit there and task somebody. We don't delegate somebody. We don't even, what we hear about the parade is probably what you hear at a chamber meeting or online or something like that. Put the blame on us. And I'm not trying to say that we don't take the blame for it. It's to put the blame squarely on us and say that we are the ones that are shutting down the fun of Yelm. I think that's incorrect. If we had even this kind of attendance to city council meetings, you'd see what we cover every city council meeting. We want to try to improve. We've been this year trying to improve and make things better for this community. Pushback we get when we start talking about some of the stuff, and if you follow social media on some of the things, like we start talking about expansion, start talking about development, start talking about various things that we actually do control, we get so much pushback. I understand Yelm's a small town. Yelm has grown quite a bit. So Santa, please don't put the blame on us for shutting down the fun of Christmas, because the city council didn't. City council had no say in it at all. We get briefed saying this is what's going on, and we go, okay, thank you. That's it.
But Brian, I'd love to harass you.
Oh,
No, wouldn't that be, when you look at this thing and you go, what is your community worth? Okay, there's not enough money in the pot on the registration fees to take care of this. So to do a parade, we had what, 18 and the arbitrary amount is 30. I don't know how that was,
It was less than 18.
well, okay, I was told it was, and then I talked with Drew with the Yelm schools, and he goes, well, 5 of those were definitely school, and the rest of them were tacked on. One of them was Ball Hill 17, because we love a parade. We love being here. We are part of your community. You know, so the value, you know, the mayor's now saying, we are gonna do that thing. It is gonna happen. It can't happen on a Friday night because God knows how the traffic is running through these towns. I don't know how you're gonna make that work, but I'm all ears. I'm ready to see it happen. And I'm not here to assign blame. If I was a project manager, that's the first thing I would do. But I'm not. It's just, I don't know where to start with this thing. My dad told me a story one time about a blind guy, and he had a seeing-eye dog, and back when they used to have that hookup right over there, and he's on the street corner and he's waiting for traffic, and all of a sudden the dog just took off and just dang near killed him. All his cars going back and forth. He got to the other side and reached into his pocket, pulled out a biscuit, and gave it to the dog. And this guy goes, "What are you doing rewarding him? He almost got you killed." And he says, "I'm just trying to figure out which end to kick." You know, and some of this stuff, you got to get past the initial emotion of, we lost the parade again. And I've been trying to excavate and figure out where to go. And a lot of the signs kind of point back here with the construct of how the decisions are made. So I'm not trying to put you guys out there. And I know as a commissioner, how many meetings we do and nobody shows up. Or the only people that show up are the cranky ones. And I'm trying not to be that. I'd like to see us kind of get up to another level over here. So
And we have a
Brian,
couple more
please
questions.
don't feel picked on.
Councilmember Smith.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for bringing that up. Brian took the first part that, you know, the council, I just kind of want to make that clear. We had nothing to do with that because I would have fought for that. I've been putting a bug in their ear about a parade, lighted parade. So that will happen. I took part in a couple in other cities and they were amazing. So Joe's on that. The other thing that you brought up were the decorations and the light up in town.
Yes.
It's on my notes for tonight. So anyway. thank
Because I've heard a lot about that.
you. Yes, yeah,
I love the tower.
yes.
It's
That's
included in the budget that the council passed. We've upped the budget a little bit on that. We will be.
But thank you. Thank you.
Some trees and all that next year.
Well, I was Santa for the city for, on the bench for the Christmas lighting. I've never seen the Christmas tree lighting at all.
And we thank
Because
you for that.
there are
Deanna.
so many kids come across my lap, and your city people are absolutely incredible, taking all of those pictures. And I just got to keep moving those kids through, and I know 3 hours of that, you know, and there were still people that got turned away because they said the line's too long.
We have a lot of great volunteers and employees here in the city of Yelm who help make Christmas in the Park happen and make all these other events happen. We appreciate you for your volunteering.
I love being your Santa. It is so much
The
fun.
kids love you. I mean, who doesn't love Santa?
Sometimes Mrs. Claus has a problem.
Sure. Councilmember Crossman.
First and foremost, thank you so much for being the Yelm Santa. I think everyone knows who you are, and that takes a lot of time and effort. So that's going to be first and foremost. Thank you for that. I know my kids enjoyed the pictures on Saturday
Oh, yeah.
when we did that. And then second of all, I just want to speak mainly to some of the stuff you spake and some of the things I see on social media and people, you know, out there that don't realize that the city and the Chamber of Commerce are completely separate entities at all. You know, I'm a chamber member myself because I run a business. I'm also on the city council, but we are completely separate entities. So people seem to want to merge these two together, and it's just not. They're completely separate. So in regards to parade and any other events that come out through the year, I mean, I've seen this multiple times, you know, these complaints from people like, oh, people need to realize we're separate entities, you know, first and foremost. And so, you know, we have to, as chamber members, you know, we look to the president and the board of our complaints of, you know, what's, you know, like the parade being canceled, like, okay, chamber, hey, what's going on here? You know, and then secondly, you know, as a city part of it, okay, city that runs it, not the council, because council had nothing to do with the parade. Hey, what's going on? So let's separate these two first and foremost. Those are my main points. And then also in regards to a parade, we have to realize, so I grew up in Yelm. I've been in Yelm my whole life, 40 some odd years now. I'm not gonna say how many, it's been a while. We have outgrown Rainier, Roy, Eatonville by a lot, by thousands. You know, they can do things that we can't anymore because of the size we are and the traffic that we have to produce. So people need to realize that and have a little grace. I mean, it's a struggle just to get Prairie Days, and I'm a strong proponent of Prairie Days Parade. And then going to a Saturday, you know, I grew up on a Thursday night. You have Prairie Days, you go down there, you have to get the candy and all the kids, and being on a Saturday, I'm so little edgy about that, but I have to grow and understand. Okay,
You
things
could still
change.
throw candy back then.
That's right.
They were targets.
And if I was to do it, I would still throw candy. So I ask that people have a little grace and realize that Yelm has grown beyond some of that. We can't do things the way we used to do. And so if we don't have the participation that it costs to run a parade, we can't do it just for the simple cost of it, because it's so much bigger than it used to be when I was a kid 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so we need people to participate and to join. That's our problem in this city, is people are not participating. People need to step up like, yes, I want to do this. I want to join. Here's my money. And I know it costs a lot. It takes a lot of time and effort. People just want to see stuff, but they just don't want to participate. That's what I see, is like people aren't volunteering. It takes time, takes resources. Get in, get involved, and this stuff will happen if we have the participation level. I think that's our biggest problem, is participation levels, you know, to do these things that we want to do.
Councilmember Richardson.
Well, and I want to speak, it's always a conflict of interest here because I'm chamber president, but here I am on city council. But I do want to be, open with you as well. It is a transition period for the chamber. And, there's been a lot of, whenever you have change of leadership, things kind of get reconfigured. And so when I see that perspective in 11, I go, wow, man, that sucks. That's us. That's us. We got to get better at that. And so we take it to heart. And I thank you for putting that down there. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of my responsibility there. So we're trying to do our best to get that. The website we know it's a work in progress, and we're trying our best to do what we can. And I agree with you when especially you talk about the chamber has to be robust, just like what Josh had mentioned. Like, you see the same people show up at every event. It's the same group of people, and what we do need is we need more involvement. And so that's important. But Santa, Harry, appreciate you. And, these things will be taken with a lot of consideration, especially here listening to this. And I'm not over here trying to sit on my own soapbox, but now I've had a rough day. And then I come here and then I see 11, I'm just like, ooh, it's really sinking. And all I really want is my dryer to get fixed. And all. I've been without a dryer for 2 weeks, so if you can make something happen, that would be fantastic.
Schedule is everything.
But honestly, you're right. We work together, and so on behalf of the chamber, I'm sorry that that's a feeling that is there, and we're trying to do better to bring some more representation there. And
Can I respond just a little
Yeah,
bit?
absolutely.
And I know, because I'm a chamber member too. Not that I do business in this town. I do commercial pre-engineered steel buildings. And that's not really an appetite for this town, but I want to have a voice. And I look at some of this stuff and I go, okay, there's almost 300 members. Today, the event that was had, there's probably less than 40 people that showed up, and probably your same group that's there. And you go, wow, how do we make this thing work? How do we generate the excitement? And the jury's still out for me having executive a person that lives clear out in Silverdale, I'm kind of going, how does this work? And so it's like, all right, the challenges are there. And that's a big part of this whole parade thing is how do we do this as a community? And it's like, all right, whatever we have to do, I don't want to serve on another board. They just signed me up on the adult senior center. I'm now on that board. I don't need another board, but I'm willing to push and I'm willing to encourage and I'm willing to dig through details and figure out how do we make this appealing to where people go, wow, I want to be in this parade. I don't want to miss it this year. And I don't want to stand back and grouse, and social media is everywhere. Somebody's already said, we just need to recreate it and do our own parade. And it's like, well, no, we don't. We have all the infrastructure to make this thing work. We just need to find that level of excellence and commitment to do it. And so, thank you very much, Mayor.
We've had multiple conversations about this already. We've had meetings. You wouldn't think that we've had so many meetings already for Christmas in the Christmas in the park next year, but we have. And we're recapping and understanding what we could do better next year. And like, Councilmember Richardson said, we will do better. And this is a good learning experience for us. We are going to do it a lot better though next year. And if we have this conversation next year, we'll probably have some issues.
Yes,
But,
well, and I guess we're waiting on the superintendent to decide when we could do something to celebrate the football players.
yeah, we're already
We can
working
do
with
that.
that.
So I know
Yeah, it
that's
should be in
in
January.
the works.
Yep, yeah.
But I just love the cheer that's in this town and the twisters and it's like, we have got a resource in these young people that we just need to encourage at every level.
Absolutely.
I still remember back in the day when the Camerons had Mr. Doug's and started that dance program and how many seagulls came out of Yelm. Because I don't know what the vortex is here. Sometimes it's a little strange, but good things come out of here and people know. who we are.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time. This is definitely more than 3
Thank you,
minutes.
Santa.
Blessings.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Councilmember Blair has also. Krista, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
My name is Krista. I work at the Chamber of Commerce actually currently. I do that job because I grew up in Yelm, doing the parades, doing all these events that everybody comes to enjoy. Being there is, I've been told that we have to have so many participants in the parade. If not, it's not gonna be really happen because shutting down the main road is an issue.
I'm sorry, Krista, could you please stand at the podium? The cameras, sorry. For the record too. Yeah, if you could state your name, please.
My name is Krista Gillespie. I grew up in Yelm. Went K through 12 here. I grew up doing the parades in town and gymnastics, martial arts, FFA. Yelm Cinema is still State Farm. I grew up doing this stuff. So I took the job at the Chamber of Commerce to be part of planning that and giving back to the community. And now getting it canceled, it's rough because now working in the chamber, I get people calling going, hey, what's going on with the parade? We didn't know about it. So it's either we're not publicizing enough, we're not doing enough advertising on and off social media. So it's hard because I know it's a partnership with the city and the chamber, but we grew up together. So we've both been in it, but my thing is hard is just getting community together, and I get shutting down the main road. I would love to see a light parade because that's what it was when we grew up. But shutting down the main road on that night is understandable. So why can't we change to parade route?
It's worth considering, yeah.
So even if we went from like Mill Pond down Mill Road, it gives the same amount of distance, less traffic, less road shutdown, a little bit of a different option, but still a possibility. So,
It's likely what we're gonna do is change up the parade route.
okay.
So people might not be as happy, but I think it's gonna be a cool thing. It's easier to shut down.
Why don't we try it from the high school to middle school the 1 year? And it was kind of, but it's still a main road. It's still the main road being shut down. So we did a side road instead where it wasn't such a conflict with traffic. Because yes, when I grew up here as a kid, we had 4,000 people in town. Now we have what, almost 11,000? So people are like, well, we did it for a handful of people before. Well, a handful now is different than a handful then. So.
Parking considerations, all the other
Yeah.
stuff, staging, yeah. It's a
but-
lot.
If there's an accident on I.
Heaven
Yeah.
forbid.
Yeah, Lord forbid that happens.
Really long parade.
Yeah, as somebody is, I'm 35 years old. I went K through 12 here. I grew up here. I took the job at the chamber because I wanted to be part of this community. So to have it canceled, it's heartbreak to me, but
Be bigger and better and stronger next year. It will happen.
okay, well, you
Thank you for your comments, Krista.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, is there any other public comment before we move on? All righty. We will go on, item number 5, our consent agenda. We got the October 2022 check register and position summary. Is there any comments on that? Any questions? Councilmember Carlson,
Move to approve the consent agenda.
is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Did Councilmember Blair, I'm sorry, did you see you vote yet?
That was aye.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Just want to make sure you knew I was here.
Yep, we do. Thank you, Councilmember Blair, is joining us through Zoom. All right, moving on to item number 6, new business. Item A is an interlocal agreement for jury trial services with Thurston County District Court. We got Sonia here to brief us on it.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So I don't have a championship trophy to present you or anything, but I do have the interlocal agreement, like you
That's
stated,
good.
establishing the district court filing and jury trial fees for the city of Yelm. And so historically, our court has had this agreement with the Thurston County District Court for many years. And so both courts currently are just seeking to continue that great relationship that they've had. And so currently, the current jury trial agreement that we have expires at the end of this year, December 31st. And so the new agreement that you have before you, it's through December 2026. Takes effect January the 1st of this new coming year. And really like we had gone over the study session in the study session about a month ago, there's very few changes, and really it's just this new agreement just establishes there's a 64 increase in the jury trial fees and a $34 decrease for confirmation hearing. So it's really just the rates that we're looking at. Also, another change or addition to the contract was there is on page 2, you will see that there's filing fees. And this is really just to cover in case of an emergency, it's to continue operations, say a natural disaster, or for some reason we're not able to conduct our court services in our building. Then the agreement is that Thurston County District Court will have a courtroom for us to move our services there. That way we can continue to do our job. And so
This is just this doesn't happen often, correct?
no, it doesn't
It
really.
happened in the last 5 years even?
You mean the jury trial? No, we haven't had one in 5 years or more. And so at this time, I have a motion for council to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign the interlocal agreement establishing district court filing and jury trial fees effective January 1, 2023, and including December 31, 2026.
Councilmember Hess. All right, we'll go Councilmember Hess and then Blair.
I was gonna make a motion. I was gonna say to move.
All right.
Don't read it.
Would you mind if we went to Councilmember Blair first? Thank you. Councilor Blair, go ahead.
I just had a question regarding them holding a room for us to be able to use. Are we paying a monthly fee for that, or is it just if needed?
If needed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hess?
I move that we authorize Mayor DePinto to sign the interlocal agreement establishing district court filing and jury fees for the city of Yelm Municipal Court from 2023 to and including December 31st, 2026.
Is there a second? All right, any further discussion? We have a question from the crowd. Go ahead.
What's that fee that Thurston County charges the city?
Fee for like our jury trials or the filing fees?
No, for the jury trial.
For the jury trial, so for any jury trial, Any confirmation hearing is $136 at the time the jury trial is confirmed, and $177 per day for jury trial.
$500 dollars.
Any further questions, comments? We have a motion second on the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Moving on to item B, approval of public works contract for vehicle storage building. This is Pat, please, come on up.
I get signed. Look at that.
Ooh, I like that. You switched out the name.
Feel official. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have another construction contract for you. We're gonna keep on building. This is a public works contract, for the site work for our vehicle storage facility. Now, in your, agenda packet, I put in quite a bit of detail in there about this building. In a nutshell, it's being built on our property at the water reclamation facility. It is a 130 by 80-foot building. In preparation for putting up that building, it's a steel building. We need to get some site work done first. We need to get the grading, the concrete floor, the floor slab of the building, the paving and the utilities in place before we can get that building built. So this contract is with Mountain Terrace Builders here in Yelm. And the contract is for the work that I just described. We have been working with Mountain Terrace Builders on this contract. They were acquired through the MRSC roster process, in which we were able to do because the amount of the contract is less than the amount that's required for having to go out for competitive bidding. So we've been negotiating this with them, and so if you have any questions about the contract, I would be very happy to try to address those, but in the meantime, I'm asking staff to give approval to Mayor DePino to sign a public works contract with Mountain Terrace Builders in the amount of $348,972.62 for construction of the site work for our planned vehicle storage building.
Was this in our last budget or this upcoming?
It
budget?
is actually in our last year's budget, but because we didn't get it built, we moved it to the 2023 budget.
Thank you. Councilmember Blair.
I have a little bit of a question. Considering this was done off of the, excuse me if I'm, MSRC, was that the term? We just approved that, what, 2 weeks ago?
No, that's a separate, that was a separate.
No, what I mean is, didn't we just recently approved to even use that list? So I'm curious how very quickly we somehow got a bid for a $350,000 project out of thin
Yeah,
air.
we're on this list continuously, but Pat, do you want to explain?
Yeah,
MRC is
we've
far?
been a member of the MRSC rosters for a very long time, a number of years, and this is an option that we can use when contracts are small in nature and do not exceed the threshold for required to go out for competitive bidding. And so this is what we use for this particular process. We are a member of the MRSC roster and have been for quite some time.
I had do you mind if I one more question?
Yep.
What is the need for this? A vehicle storage building. Are we talking just a place to park vehicles?
Basically, yeah, but it's a building that's specifically used for storage of vehicles that cannot be left out in cold weather. A lot of our vehicles for our water department, for example, cannot be left outside. So we need a place to put them. Currently, we're having to play kind of like playing Tetris, getting vehicles in and out of our existing only building over at Public Works. So this building would be used for the storage of those vehicles.
How many vehicles do we have that can't be stored outside in the winter?
I don't have a number for you. Woody, do you have an idea?
Yeah. I can go for them. Yeah.
Yeah, so the biggest set right now is the new pump truck we just purchased. Right now, we have to move, we have 2 lawnmowers we moved out of the way and parked the pump truck in there, and we drained all the oil and winterized the lawnmowers. That's one. We have 2 water service trucks that have water on board. We have another sewer service truck coming next year that will need to park in there. Our de-icer needs to stay indoors. Our plows all stay indoors because of the sandbox. If you let the sandbox freeze during a snowstorm, sand doesn't come out. So we have to park those indoors. So during winter, we move everything out of our vehicle storage building. All the main vehicles are outside while we try to jigsaw the rest of them inside and move lawnmowers, have to move equipment, move stuff that should be stored inside outside to have this spot to park these.
Councilmember Crossman, do you have a question?
What's that threshold for the small works?
It's, I believe it's $350,000, and you'll notice that the amount on here happens to be just under that.
That's what I was curious.
Yeah. Because we negotiated some pricing with Mountain Terrace Builders, so that's one thing that's one advantage of going with this route. We were able to cut some things out of what we needed, to adjust some different quantities and so forth to get it under that threshold, so that we wouldn't have to go through that process. So, and in the contract on the last page is their quotation breaking down the various amounts for that, so you can see what that costs.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
You want to say something? Oh, I'm gonna move.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that when we do this process, we still do an RFP, a request for proposal, and we still post that, and anyone that's in that small works roster can bid on this project. So it's not like we're just said, you're the people, we're going to sign you. Anyone can bid on it from the small works roster that's included on that roster. It just prevents us from having to go outside the small works roster and go try to vet a company, go through a bidding process. These companies are already vetted. We can pull them off small work roster. Anyone that's a company could bid on this that has a big time in mind. Other questions? Councilmember Kaminsky.
I would like to move to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign a public works contract with Mountain Terrace Builders in the not to exceed amount of $314,972.62. Nice round number for construction of the site work for the vehicle storage building.
Councilmember Hess. Second. Second by Councilmember Hess. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilmember Blair.
Is it permissible for me to pose a question to a member of the audience there?
I'll allow it.
I heard what I believe someone said they work in building steel buildings.
That'd be Santa. Covering the word.
I have a question for you. I'm curious. How does this price point compare to what your experience is in a similar size steel building?
Well, this is not the steel building. This is only the site work that's going to be done to open it up, prepare it, get the compaction, get everything ready. This is not even the concrete for the building, I believe.
Well, it is including the floor, concrete for the floor slab, but does not include the steel building itself, the structure, and it does not include the erection of the steel building. This is just for the site work and the slab preparation for that.
So that's, I mean, that's pretty decent. The only question that I would have, it's like deciding to remodel your bathroom, and when you open it up, you realize you got rot going up another wall. As soon as you take your first dig into the dirt, you find out if you've got good soil underneath there, and hopefully, as tight as the budget is, they've done their due diligence, and they know that they've got pretty good soil right there and what they have to import or export to make it work. But anything extra after that, I mean, you're right at tight against that, and I don't know what you do with a change order at that point. But other than that, concrete is not cheap, and neither is site work. And so, James, that's probably pretty much in line with what it needs to be. Prevailing wage is a big part of this. You can't just get Joe off the street. So
That's from Santa.
Brian, too.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Santa. Any other further questions, comments? Here's a motion and second on the table. All those, go ahead, Councilmember.
Santa to come to all our meetings.
Yes, sir, Jim, comment.
Yeah, it's not like we're in a real winter city or real winter area. This is only gonna be used 6, 8 weeks of the year.
When it rains too and all that.
It rains like every day.
It rains a little bit more in that.
But,
It's not cold here.
but when it gets cold and when it freezes, it's an issue and everybody expects the city to step up. And so I understand that part. There's nothing like frozen sand.
Yeah, this is part of the maintenance and preservation of our equipment. Yeah. Well received. All right, motion a second on the table. If there's no further commentary or discussion, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. With Blair being the lone center.
I have the original contract here already signed, for the mayor to sign, so I'll leave it with clerk.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. All right, moving on. Item number C, ordinance number 1091 is a final amendment to the 2021-22 biennial budget. I believe Stephanie's coming on up for this.
Yes.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So on your dais, I did give you a printout of page 56 of the agenda packet, which is all of the remaining budget amendment items for 2022. So I do want to stress before I start going down this list, at year end, we do a pretty thorough review of the entire city budget, fund by fund, to make sure that every fund is going to end the year on positive. We don't want to end the year on a negative. So some of these items are me estimating that a fund looks like it may run out of money and needs to use some of its reserves to balance it out for the end of the year. So they may not spend it all, they may not use it all, but we need to have that in place in case they do. A lot of our funds were really impacted this year as the entire community has been impacted by inflation. So have services at the city. We've paid more for supplies, services, fuel, just like everybody else. So I'm going to go line by line. If you have a question, please stop me and ask the question. Some of this is a little complicated. So on line 1, we have a transfer of $410,910 from the Water Revenue Debt Reserve Fund to the Water Revenue Debt Redemption Fund. And so basically, the Revenue Bond Reserve Fund has too much money in it. And that money originated from the original issue of the bond. So when there's excess funds, we use those excess funds for the next year's principal and interest payment on that bond. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So that's what that first line 1 is. We did an analysis of the reserve fund. We realized it's overfunded. So we're using some of that excess for the principal and interest payment in 2023, which means that leaves a little more money in the actual water fund. Line 2, we have this Fund 105. It's called the Park Reserve Fund. It's had $942 in it for I don't know how many years. We have no plans to use this fund. I'm of the attitude that the less funds we have, the better. It keeps our books cleaner, more transparent, easy. So we're just going to transfer that $942 to the Municipal Building Fund to go towards municipal building activities. My thought is that $942 probably originated from some kind of impact fee. So it's appropriate to put it into a construction fund. Line 3 and 4 are closing out the Killian Road LID Fund 202. So line 3, many of you probably remember, there were still 2 outstanding interfund loans that were used to fund that project. So we need to pay back those 2 interfund loans. So the total of those 2 loans is $514,628. That money is going to the Transportation Facility Fund and the Municipal Building Fund.
Could you briefly explain what interfund
transfer is, just for.
An interfund loan is when one fund loans another fund money, but that money has to be paid back.
In the city, our own, our own budget. It's our money loaning.
Right, it's within the city. We didn't borrow the money from an external party. We borrowed it from one of our funds. Ideally, these loans should be paid back within 3 years. This has been outstanding longer than that. It was questioned by the state auditors. And I told them, yes, we are going to take care of that, and that's what we're doing right here. So to close out the remainder of the Killian Road LID fund, we're going to transfer the remainder of $695,606. I'm on line 4 from the Killian Road LID fund to the general fund. Now, if you remember during our budget process, we knew that money was coming back and we earmarked it as municipal reserves, or you remember, but it's earmarked in the general fund, so. Line 5, we needed to purchase laptops, 2 laptops for police officers, so that's $8,000 that the general fund is transferring to the IT fund to purchase those laptops. We buy rugged laptops for the police officers. They're the laptops that go in their vehicles. Line 6, when our engineer departed earlier this year and we had a difficult time replacing that person, we ended up doing more contracted services for engineering services. So we exceeded the budget by about 25,000. So that is just shoring up that account line. 25,000. Line 7 was the addition of the 2 police officers that council approved on August 23rd, $76,776. So we're putting that in our budget. Line 8, when I was looking through the general fund at the parks and recreation activities, the Yelm Community Center utilities, we've talked about this before, it was way under budget, so we needed to add about 30,000 to that. The actual physical parks, their utilities, fuel cost, we were exceeding budget by about 37,500 in those areas, so we're adding some funds to that. And then we did have 2,500 for the Mayor's Cup. I believe that that's not going to happen, so that will just go unspent this year.
I want you thinking it was 70,000 for the mayor.
No.
Councilmember Crossman.
Did you say that was canceled?
Yeah, there wasn't enough interest in it. There was only like 4 teams that wanted to do it. It's not enough to justify it.
Yeah, participation levels, yeah.
All right, line 9, in the general fund, capital expenditures, it's a carryover for the body cameras at the PD, 140,000. Line 10, so when we issue a building permit, part of that permit, we're collecting school impact fees and fire impact fees. We collect them through the permit process and then we pass 100% of them to the school district and the fire district. So we way under budgeted how much we thought we would be collecting in those impact fees this year. So just those alone are making our budget look out of balance. So we're just adding 630,000 to reflect what we've actually brought in for the school and the fire districts.
Those impact fees are through construction.
Right. So the money comes in and we just pass it through. It's not our money, it's their money. We're just collecting it and passing it through. Line 11, the street fund is about 40,000 short for repairs and maintenance and salary and benefits. Now, the street fund is a standalone fund. To pay for that 40,000, the general fund needs to give them 15,000. The arterial street fund, we're closing that, and 15,000 $601 from the arterial street fund will go to against that 40,000. And then the remaining 10,000 will come from street reserves, so. It's difficult with the street fund because the monies that a street fund collects, like the motor vehicle fuel tax money, it doesn't cover the cost of the street, so. It's very typical, and we do it where the general fund supports the street fund. So,
What does some of that money, where does some of that money go towards? You say street fund, repairing potholes, stuff like that, or?
right, potholes and, any employees that are working on street projects, we pay salary and benefits to them through that fund, so. Line 14, so the city participates in the affordable housing sales tax credit. This is something, again, where we collect the money and then we have an interlocal agreement with Thurston County for their affordable housing program. So, this is the first year that the city has participated. We estimate we're receiving about 25,000 in that sales tax credit money, and we need to forward that on to Thurston County. That's what line 14 is. And then line 15, and looking at the sewer fund, to me, it appears they're gonna maybe go over in expenditures in the operating side, so salary, benefits, supplies and services of about 170,000. So we're just saying we're authorizing an additional 170,000 so they don't go over budget. They have the reserves to cover that.
What are some of the reasons for it?
Well,
Cody?
Cody, that's your fund.
Yeah, so the 412, one of the two biggest things is our BFD, our thing that makes reclaimed water went down. The skid went down for it, so we had to replace that. A blower went down. We had to replace that for our things. So these are all the things that are falling apart as we get ready to build a new plant. So there's been a lot of fixes. We had to do pipe upgrade or pipe fix that broke. Our outfall pipe got crushed and we had to fix that. So there's a lot of things that are happening that we had to fix that we didn't expect to fix because we thought we were gonna be building the plant by now. The good news is the plant you guys, passed and we're starting construction on that. So these fees, they should go away because we're having a new plant where we don't have to replace blowers and pipes and valves.
Every previous council kind of made that decision to, Terry was on there, myself and James. But yeah, we knew that this would happen where we'd have some failures we'd have to replace. Normally we'd replace them by now, but we're trying to save as much money for this plant.
Yeah, we're band-aiding everything right now, duct taping as much as we can just to limp by until the new plant's built. Because if we were gonna replace everything, that number would be over millions. Yeah, to do that. So we're just band-aiding things and making things work. So.
Thank you, Cody.
And again, like I said at the beginning, I'm estimating 170,000. They probably won't hit that, but just in case. Line 16 in the IT fund, an additional 55,000 for software in that fund. Some of that is due to the purchases we made due to the COVID pandemic, where we purchased some additional softwares and equipment. Line 17 is the equipment rental fund. The sewer capital equipment costs 5,000 more than we anticipated. And then line 18 of $241,131. Those are for the water rights that we are paying to Lacey and Olympia.
Yeah, for interlocal agreement with them.
Right.
Yeah. All right, lots to go over.
Yes.
Questions, Councilmember Crossman.
Back to line 10, took me a second to.
Okay.
collect my thoughts. You said it was miscalculated or underestimated. How is that rate determined?
So when we estimate how much we think we're going to receive in impact fees, what we try and do is say, okay, how many new residential properties do we think are going to be built? And then we multiply that by the permit fee. Well, it was grossly underestimated, that number. And so it's always an estimate. We don't know for sure how many residential permits are gonna be applied for, right?
When was that estimate made?
That was made in 2020. Yeah, so the landscape of construction has greatly changed since then.
That estimate was closer to about the 400,000 mark.
And it's just shot way over it, so.
So there's no refund of those fees. We just determine we think it's gonna be this much. It's higher. Well, good, but it's higher, all right. Sucks to be you guys. We could have had it lower, but
No.
No,
not how it works. Okay.
no,
It's just more construction means more money. So when there's a building that's constructed, whether it's residential or commercial, we get impact fees on those. And so we underestimated the amount of growth that we would have. And because we have so much more, there's so much more money in terms of impact fees.
right.
That's,
Yes, and that's correct. And so that money just, we collect it on behalf of the fire and the school districts, and then we just pass it right through to them.
and those rates have been set by council years and years ago.
Right.
And I did one for the schools. No,
Those aren't set by council. School impact fees and fire impact fees are not set by council.
I thought we had to approve it though.
We know, not those.
I remember, I'm 100%, I remember passing something on the impact fees.
We do, we have our own impact fees, yes, sewer impact fees, water impact fees, and park impact fees. We do pass those.
I could have sworn it was for the schools, but all right, moving on. Any other questions? Councilmember Brooks?
I have a question in regards to line item 16, the software maintenance. Does that also include the salary for that maintenance?
No,
No, it's
no,
just,
just the amount of money that we paid to vendors for software and IT related things.
Other questions? Council or the public? Yes, sir.
We had a,
State your name, please.
I can't recall what day, what month it was, but it might have been like 2 months ago that we had a problem with our water, something broke, main or something, and our water was yellow. I don't know. If it was the right way to go. It was yellow and I was told that it'll go away in time. It did. Since that time, my water tastes like bleach.
That's a Cody question.
Is that gonna go away like the yellow did also? It's, I mean, do you remember when that pipe broke?
Yeah, so what had happened, like.
This normally, we'd be asking for questions regarding what we're talking about right now. This really isn't, if Cody, if you want to do like a 20-second.
Yeah, 20-second. The part you're talking about, there's construction taking place. They hit a pipe that they had on their land. It opened a main up and water shot out. They closed it off. So that's where the yellow came from. It's sort of sediment. So that's what it is. The bleach is because our new downtown well just finished and they're balancing the chlorine right now. The chlorine residual, we have to have chlorine in the water. It's a legal requirement by Department of Health, chlorine in the water that we treat. So just balancing that level. It's still way below what the standard is. Like we can go all the way up to 10 and I think we're at 2.1 for the chlorine residual. That's parts per million. So it's totally drinkable and safe and there's balance in now. So you may notice a little bit of a chlorine smell if you didn't in areas because downtown well is different. People at Southwest well, really quick, they've been the same for them because their well produces it with this hypochlorite. So if you're down in this area, you probably notice your water is different than it used to be, but it never go away once they balance it all out. It's still completely safe.
Thank you, Cody. Can we get your name for the record, sir?
Dan Mendoza.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know if this is the right place.
It wasn't, but it's all right. It's all good.
Since you were on water, I thought I would.
Sure. All right. Any other questions? Councilmember Kaminsky.
Council, Joe and I just finished our finance committee meeting and we went over all this with Stephanie in detail. So I would like to move to approve ordinance 1091 for the final budget amendment for 21-22 final budget.
Any further questions, comment, or excuse me, is there a second? Councilmember Hess, second. Is there any further questions or comments? All right, seeing
Yep.
none.
Question,
Yeah, go ahead.
are we taking steps to ensure that these far underestimates don't happen again as much as in our control?
I mean, yes, I think it's hard to estimate sometimes on the construction. On that part, I mean, it just is
Not
what
on
it
the
is.
construction, I'm just, not on the construction. There just seems to be a whole lot of, we thought it was gonna cost this and now we're spending a lot more.
So
Please.
So we are constantly trying to go through the budget and make sure that how our business is actually occurring is what's reflected in the budget. you know, there's been a lot of cleanup. We're constantly trying to clean things up, clean funds up, improve our estimates. It's a long journey. I inherited a biennial budget and I've learned a lot. I've seen errors, duplications. We've cleaned up a lot. So yes, we are constantly striving to improve our budgeting process. At the end of the day, we're estimating everything, but we are working to improve those estimates.
Yeah, Stephanie's been on it. She's been stellar with this budgeting process, estimations for this upcoming biennium. Just not to throw you or the person under the bus, but this wasn't you that actually made these estimates in 2020, correct? This was before you got here.
Correct.
Yeah, so not necessarily, I'm not blaming anyone before her, but Stephanie's been great on this budget that we created for this next biennium. I'm hoping that I think it will be a lot closer next. We'll do the end of year, I'm guessing next year as well.
Yeah, we'll do a mid-biennium review, but you know, the one thing I guess we didn't really anticipate was all the inflation to hit us.
Sure.
And so we've definitely made adjustments for 23, 24. So, yeah.
Cool. Good, Councilmember Blair?
Yep.
All right, we got a motion second on the table. Any further discussion? All right, let's call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Big agenda tonight. Holy smokes. We're moving through it pretty quickly. Item D, resolution number 627, MRSC rosters. Cody, is this you?
Okay.
Stephanie, okay.
So we've talked about this a few times. We have, like Pat just mentioned, we have participated in the MRSC rosters for years. The resolution that you have is the template that they require us to pass. So this, we're just updating our resolution with MRSC. That's what this resolution is.
Currently have one. That's why we're able to use it currently.
Yep. I don't have anything to add from past conversations regarding this. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We talked about it as our study session, didn't we? Any questions? Comments? Councilmember Rossman.
move to approve resolution number 627.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Carries. Moving on, resolution 629, purchasing policy. Stephanie, is this you?
Yes, thank you. So I have nothing further to add on this. We just had our audit exit meeting for 2019 through 21. And they recommended that we get policies in place. And so I'm glad that we were kind of ahead of that by getting this out here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can look forward in 2023 to 3 or 4 more policies to come in before you. So,
And Stephanie, just for the public's viewing that might not have seen last week's council meeting or council study session, would you explain just briefly what the purchasing policy is and how we got there?
right. So the policy is directed toward the purchase of goods and services at a reasonable cost using open, fair, documented, and competitive processes. The policy takes into account that we do use MRSC for small works processes or purchases. And then it also is in line with the RCW laws regarding bidding for large public works projects, whether it's a single trade or multi-trade projects. We actually did use a third party to go through this policy and make sure that the current RCWs are properly reflected in our policy. So that's very important when you're doing multi-million-dollar projects like the WRF, that we have all of our ducks in a row and that we're in compliance with the RCWs. So this policy is a culmination of all of that work. So.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any further questions, comments? Councilmember Smith?
Move to approve resolution number 629. Purchasing. Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Any further discussion? Alrighty, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Blair. I jumped the gun on that one. All those against say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on. Resolution number 628, setting fees. Motion to approve resolution 628, setting fees and repealing resolutions 358, 447, and 585. Cody, let's hear it.
Hello, council. Before you is fee schedule. How I think we should break this down, and I'll lean on your guidance, is we just examine each exhibit and table at a time and go through, because I know there's some tables that maybe more interest, but I don't want to pass a table and then have someone say that we didn't talk about that. So I think it would be beneficial to go through each table, and if there's a table we have questions on or want to talk about, we can. I did separate them into tables so they'd be easy to adjust or modify or do whatever council wills with it. The reminder is most of these fees are the same and have not changed. There are some that have changed. We'll talk about those. Since your last meeting, you'll notice tables C or tables B and table D. We got rid of the individual line item because there was some confusion about that. So now you just have nonprofit and other are the two line items. If you're okay with that, I'll start with exhibit A and we'll just go down the list if that council is okay with that. Okay, so exhibit A is our yellow development fee schedule. These were already set. This is just bringing them into this ordinance. So we have one spot for the fees. So on these, the only thing that we added is plus consultant costs. So this is for all new development in Yelm. When someone comes and wants to build something in Yelm, these are the fees they pay. We charge for what the staff time is, plus whatever consultant fee is. We don't have a lot of these staff members on. So like we don't have a traffic engineer that works here. We don't have certain experts that in our field. So sometimes we have to get consultants come in and look at things because we can't make assessments of those. So that's what the consultant costs are on some of these. Same with the planning aspect. Sometimes we have to have an outside agency like a surveyor look at these things for us because we don't have a surveyor on staff. So that's what the consultant costs are.
Rather than eat the costs, we're passing along.
Yeah, you pass it on to developer because taxpayers right now front the cost for these things. So a taxpayer is paying for a developer to get a free survey. And that's not the way we should do things. We shouldn't have taxpayers front a developer from large city coming in and building houses. So that's where these consultant costs come in and pass on to them. And they're charged at time of permit. So scroll through exhibit A. Is there any question about exhibit A before we move on the next one? The only new fees you'll see on here, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, those are all the same. Nothing has changed on those. Is that park impact fee we had talked about? We had mentioned this several times in other. So at the very bottom, you have a park impact fee. So every city we look at around us, when a new development comes in, a new house is built, they charge a park impact fee. Those fees can only be used for building or obtaining land for new parks. So we don't charge that. So right now, the brunt of building a new park or a new thing is on the taxpayers of Yelm and not the developers coming in. So they build houses where people benefit from our parks, but they don't actually pay into those parks. They get to wash their hands of it. So this is a new structure, very similar. It's extremely much lower than any city around us, but it allows us to bring money in to build new parks versus the taxpayers having to front that bill of a new park. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Carlson.
Single family homes versus multi-family dwelling units. Is a dwelling unit per door or is that for the whole unit?
So what happens is like apartment comes in, they have 16 dwelling units, that would be the door. So normally it's per door, but not always. Yeah. Any other question about exhibit A before we move on? Okay. Moving on, we'll go to table A. So all the appeal language and stuff is exactly the same. You missed the building, that's okay. The building permit fees, the mechanical permit fees that you kind of saw in there, they're invisible right now. Table A is missing.
Those pages are not.
Okay. Table A is building permit and plan review fees. Okay, I'll let her come up. None of those have changed. Those are exactly the same. Mechanical permit fees are exactly the same, minus the one thing where I believe someone had a question about re-roofing commercial. So we adjust, if you look on there, it says based on fee structure from UBC, which is the Uniform Building Code, they set the fee for that. We're just adopting what they set for per square footage. So that's where that commercial came in. Before it was just per square footage. So it's a little more clarifying of what actually is taking place on that re-roofing commercial. Kathy will open it back up here for you a second. Plumbing permit fees are exactly the same as well. Nothing has changed in there.
Where you're at.
I'm on plumbing permit fees, right after mechanical.
Put up mechanical.
Plumbing permit fees, there you go. Okay,
Do you want, is there anything, sorry, is there anything that you wanted, the council didn't see on this?
no, I'm gonna go through all of this in the right of way and then I'll ask questions about this section, because it's kind of this next section. Okay, plumbing permit fees, someone had mentioned a question about a fixture. It's per, so I did get clarification, plumbing permit per fixture is number of drains. So every drain is considered a plumbing fixture. So if you have a sink, if you have a shower, a bathtub, it's per drain, but if you have a shower bathtub combo, you only pay one plumbing fixture. There you go. Those are the same. Right-of-way permits. Right-of-way permits are the same. Those did not change. Is any question about the mechanical, plumbing, permit, permit side? Before we go on to the part that I know you're probably anxiously waiting to talk about. Okay, so moving on to park rental rates. Yeah. So, we did, just to clarify, we did get rid of the individual. I know there has been talk about what to do. Just to clarify what these park rental fees are, is when an event comes into the park, there's staff time used for that event, right? This is to recoup that cost for overtime. As you saw, we had to make an amendment to the park utility fees, YCC utility fees for our budget because we went over those numbers. It's significantly more expensive to run those buildings and run the park, especially when people are using water, electricity, those kind of things. That's where these park rental fees came into to try to recoup that cost. Again, this is council's decision on what they want to do with this. Nothing is set in stone. This is just us giving you information to recoup that cost. Right? We have agencies and I did see stuff online. We have agencies that aren't in the city of Yelm come in and do events in the park, make money on those events and leave the city of Yelm. That happens on a daily basis. Right now they get charged nothing. And that is kind of what we're trying to recoup is these outside agencies coming in, taking benefit of being in Yelm, using these parks and then leaving Yelm with that money. And then we don't see a lot of that or see any of it. So that was kind of where these fees came from. All the parks you'll notice have two set lines. One is nonprofit, one is other. We just made an other, so any profit organization. We do have a lot of for-profit organizations that do hold events. We do also have a lot of nonprofit organizations. Table B is separated specifically because I know that was going to be something you guys want to talk about. So we put down a little asterisk at the bottom that talks about, because we had questions about what does this reserve you? What do you get when you get this event? So if you look at the asterisk, event fee is for open public events, but does not include a splash pad playground, meaning you can't block those off and stop kids from using them. When our park, we have a park event permit right now that we give out that says what you can and can't use. So one of the biggest things is when you have a public event like this, you're not allowed to block or stop people from coming. You can't be like, my event's only for people under 18 and then no one else can come to it. You block everybody else off. We don't allow that. It has to be open to the public as part of this event parameters. Okay, I'll let you guys dive in, ask questions, or hash out with each other what you want to see done with this.
Councilmember Smith.
Okay. I think it's fine to charge people that, you know, the big events, like you said, they come out, but the nonprofit, I have a little bit of a problem with the amount that we're gonna be charging the nonprofits. That's just so we're gonna be charging them like for the Yelm City Park, or under this, if I'm reading this right, the column's down $500 plus a $250 deposit. So this nonprofit needs to come up with $700. Hopefully they'll get the $250 back, but $500 can be a lot of money for a month. So that's just, I would like to see that cut way down. That's just I still think a deposit is warranted because, you know, so maybe, I don't know, $100 at a $250 deposit. I'm just throwing that out there. That's my thought on the nonprofit. The other, I'm okay with.
What's the reason for that ish for 500?
It's just a competitive, it's what the cities around us charge for park use. So when we looked at like, I know we're not Lacey Olympia and stuff. We looked at them and we took a approach that was similar, but to, you know, smaller percentage of what they were charging.
Do you know off the top of your head what Lacey is?
I know that people have paid for like Hunter Park for a night, $500 for a night in Hunter. But I don't know what the consistent is. I didn't do the research on this section. This was the recreation coordinator did this research.
Pioneer Vista, I do rent, it's for like the pavilion, it's $100, and I'm not a nonprofit.
So either way, and I'm just thinking from the city perspective, there is cleanup one way or the other, maintenance and all that stuff. I do hear what you're saying, the nonprofits. If council wanted to lower that, I think we'd be fine with that. It's your decision anyway, but, I think the main part of it was to charge those that are for profit. If they're making, thousands of dollars off this, they should be paying into it. I get what you're saying with the nonprofits. It does, cut into it. If someone wanted to make an amendment on this for a lower amount, I wouldn't do it for free, but, I do think that would be acceptable. Councilor Hess.
One of the things that came out of the study session, and we do continue to think about it. We say, and I'm just gonna stick with Yelm City Park. We say rent the park. We don't say how much of it. You say there's something out there, but if I'm coming along and I go, I decide, do I want to go to Rainier, Tenino, or Yelm, or somewhere else to rent a park to hold an event. But there's nothing here that's, what is the rental space that you are paying for? And the reason why I'm asking is, right now, we're, the Public Service, Committee with you, Director Colton, we're working on the gazebo. Does it stay or not? We're looking at the stage improvement. We're looking at how to organize the park. What of the park is being rented? Is it just a little hill and maybe 20 feet past the hill? Where are the cutoffs? Because that's kind of important to understand what you're paying for and what impact fees we're looking at.
It's in the, so if you scroll to permit, there's that star right there. So there's the park event permit. It's not in this because the permit's not doesn't come into resolution, but the permit has that, like, what do you need? What kind of size? You have to work with, and there's certain definition of that permit, you have to work with the city for organization. So one thing that I will say about every organization we have in the park right now, every single one that has done any event in the park that I've been part of, they've all come to the city and we've worked together to kind of plan their event. And that's something that has worked really well. So every event, and I can say this about every event that was held in the park that I was part of in the last 2 years, which is everyone, they all came to the city. We worked together to build this plan where they're going to put stuff, and they worked with us. And that has been one of the positive things that's come out of this. The park event permit has been something we created recently over the last year to kind of guide them, to give us some initial direction, but we still work together about where they're going to put things. Do they need water? Do they need power?
And we did spell out, because the council member Hess and other council members that wanted this at the last study session, we did put that in there. So it does include what it does and doesn't include in there, which it does include the splash pad, does include the playground, everything else. So.
But I'm just saying, as I say, what I'm looking at is $500, and I'm only going to, the way the current park is configured, I'm only going to need from the community center to 50 feet out, paying $500. But then somebody else comes along and pays $500 to get from the concrete pad of the community center all the way to the other end. That's what I'm wondering is that it just doesn't make sense when we're looking at fees. And the nonprofit may not use the whole park. A for-profit organization may use the whole park, and that's why say we don't have, I don't see something here.
To split it up in different
In other
parcels.
words, like if you're using 100 square feet versus 1,000 square feet.
We don't rent by the square foot on this. It's either, the logistics of doing that, it's pretty darn hard. I think this is a pretty fair, what the council wanted was, they wanted some guidelines on what it does and doesn't include. That's what I heard from y'all. That's what we tried to put out. And from what I gathered, the council was in support of not putting the splash pad in, not putting the black playground, and kind of limiting that. But again, if you wanted just one area, you could just do a first come, first serve type thing, where you want just a small portion of it, you could stake out like one of the benches or the covered area. But yeah, if you do want to rent the whole thing, you can do that with the fee associated with that. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I was just going to suggest the idea of maybe for nonprofits, we take it down 50%, so more like 350 for nonprofits, and then that's still subject to meeting if there's any hardship. That language is still in there, right?
Yeah, we still have the waiver, so there's still a waiver form that nonprofits can apply for. So that is still included, that there's a waiver form they can apply for that would come to council that you guys would approve for that.
It would go to the mayor, then if they, yeah.
Oh, they appeal to council.
Yeah, so currently under this, it would be, they would ask for a waiver, and it's not like I'm arbitrarily saying yes or no. There's a guideline. If they fit the guideline, then we'll, we do it. If they don't, we don't. But if they do still feel like it's inappropriate or they want it, they can appeal to the council. Council will make that decision if to override my call if that's what the council wants.
But what about 50% for the rate?
So down to 250. 350.
Well, it's-
Oh,
There's not much difference between 5 and 750, they'll make it half. That's what
Oh,
I'm
I see,
saying.
with it including deposit, so
So they
350
would-
plus a 250 deposit.
350 plus the 250. Oh, I think
Councilmember Brooks.
It's too much or too little? Still too much?
Let's go with Councilmember Brooks and we can go back for it.
So I'm looking at the packet we were given in our study session, and it is an hourly rate. May I ask how you came to a day rate instead of the hourly rate?
Yeah, so the idea was that someone wouldn't rent the park for a few hours. They would get the park the whole day, because a lot of times they'll set up at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., and they'll go till 3, and then they'll break down for the next 2 to 3 hours. So it didn't make sense to break this Cochrane Park, or Cochrane or City Park down into hours. And we haven't traditionally seen an hourly. It's been an all-day event for those people to set up and break down. And we just decided to get rid of the hourly thing.
Other questions, comments? Councilor Crossman.
I'm in favor of keeping it as it is, not in discounted rate, simply because things cost what they cost. If they can find a better deal at a different venue, go for it. There's other venues in town. They can hold whatever event they need to hold. But our cost should be what it costs to do. So whether you're profit or nonprofit, the cost is the same. It doesn't matter. It costs the same to operate system. So that nonprofit holding their event needs to have the funds to pay for that event they want to have, or find a different venue that's more cost effective for them. Is, my opinion.
We have some comment or some questions from the audience. Yes, sir. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, can you come to the?
Please, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Nathan Sawyer. I'm also the Assistant Scoutmaster for Troop 164. I'm a unit commissioner for Troop 267. And for instance is we have an Eagle Scout coming up to, just made Eagle Scout last month. And we want to use community center. At $500 to use a community center just to do an Eagle Scout ceremony is pretty steep. I was just looking at some numbers from Spokane. Spokane rents theirs out, so they do it by people attending the event. So 1 to 50 is $50. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, Danielle, but 50 to 1,000 was $100, and 1,000 to 10,000 was $250. I'll also say that the Shelton Yacht Club, which I'm a member of, we charge $200 flat fee no matter what happens. And that's a very nice place to go. And so $500 seems really steep for me,
Sir,
especially for nonprofits.
sir, that's for the whole park. The community center is much cheaper. It's about $50 an hour.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
quoted 500.
Depending
per-
on,
so,
depending on how many hours, maybe, and if you use the kitchen.
we probably would use the kitchen. So.
Okay, so that could probably add up.
So we're talking about people being included, and we're talking about people participating. We need to look at what we're doing and how that's going to affect participation, and if we're going to push certain people out of this community. I like Yelm. I'm from Shelton originally, did 24 years in the military, came back to Yelm and settled here. We just need to be real careful about what we're charging and who we're charging for these events. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any
Any
questions?
question for me?
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Please stand up, state your name.
I'm Scott Bannister, as most of you know.
We haven't seen you for a while, Scott.
No,
I don't think this council does know who you are.
If you're worried about monies to pay for cleanup or whatever, why don't we put in the contract, or you put in the contract that they don't get their $250 deposit back if they don't do their own cleanup? Because that's what I do with my food bank and stuff. If they don't do the cleanup, they don't get their deposit back.
Yeah,
Just a
some of it, Cody, you don't want to talk about the deep cleaning and stuff that's sometimes necessary for these?
So, addressing parks, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we don't charge anything right now for parks. So what'll happen is no one puts a deposit down. They just come to the park, they leave, and then we end up, most time, and I want to stress, every event we've had in the park has been very good about cleaning. It hasn't been an issue. But we don't charge a deposit now. So this would be new charging a deposit to, and that, I hear what you're saying. We give the deposit back or we keep it if they don't clean. That's part of why we would have. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
Thank you, Cody. Any other questions from the audience, comments? Questions, council, comments? Councilmember Richardson?
I just really,
Got it.
what's your name again?
Nathan Sawyer.
I really appreciate what Nathan said, especially when it comes to participation. And when you want to have more support or encourage more participation, you got to make sure that that is feasible, especially for nonprofits. I do understand again the what we have to pay to upkeep, but that's a good, very good point. And I really hope that council would consider that opinion there.
Thank you, Councilmember Richardson. Councilmember Blair?
Could someone, only because the screen's really small, what table is it that's covering park fees?
Table B.
Scroll back up.
I would like to make a motion for an amendment to remove table B from the resolution with the intention that we are going to have further discussion on this and hammer out further details, because I do not feel there's enough detail in this to clarify what's being rented, where's being rented, or anything like that. And in addition to the fees. So I think this table specifically needs a lot more discussion and hammer it out. And I don't think it's appropriate to pass it as is when there seems to be some issues with it. So my amendment would be to remove table B from this resolution for further consideration.
Councilmember Hess?
Councilmember Blair, could we put a deadline on when that needs to be done?
Point of order, there is a motion on it. It's,
Well, no,
it is a-
I'm asking about his amendment. I'm willing to help support him. I just want to ask him if we can add a deadline to that delay, not just keep kicking the can down the road, but actually put it so that it becomes something that we deal with and make sure that it shows up on old business and that it gets accomplished instead of amendment saying sometime down the road, we're going to rediscuss table B.
There's
That's all I'm asking. him.
There's a motion on the table. You have that right to amend it, but it needs to have a second in order for it to continue. At this point, there's just a motion on the table.
Councilmember Hess, my intention would be to bring this.
Councilmember Blair,
Oh, excuse me.
hold on. There's a Councilmember Richardson had his hand up.
I wanted to second Blair's motion.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Now would be appropriate time for you to do so.
I would like to put a deadline on that. We have in the past kicked the can too many times of saying, well, let's amend it and we'll discuss it later. And it never shows back up on old business. It's not carried over. Director Colt, we're hitting the winter season. There's not a lot of events that occur in the park during the winter season due to the extreme cold and the inclement weather. When do you normally see these applications start showing up?
Last year, I think our first event was around March, and then they just accelerate from there. So we get our first normal events coming around March, but a lot of them will submit applications because they're planning in January. We have, yeah, so a lot of them will start submitting applications. They're already waiting to submit based on what happens tonight, so.
I just have this fear that we're gonna end up kicking this can down, this particular table down for another year, and it's not gonna get the traction that it needs.
This will get it. Oh. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Can I ask you a question on does anybody have a general idea of what these big events make? Not the nonprofits, but so we're going, and I just want to make sure we're going from charging them 0 to, in this case, like $750. You know what I'm asking? I mean, is it I don't want to go to a scale thing. I guess I appreciate what you said and I forgot your name off. Nathan.
Nathan,
Yeah.
Nathan, it's all worse.
Point of order.
Councilmember Blair.
Can I continue?
No,
No
yes,
disrespect.
point of
Yeah,
order.
no
State your point.
disrespect. Yeah. No disrespect, Councilmember Smith, but this is currently irrelevant to the motion on hand.
I'd have to agree.
So what? I can't talk.
You can talk, you can ask questions, but it has to remain to the motion on the table, which was to
Oh,
delay it.
okay.
So there's been a motion, the second to delay this, to take out table, would it be?
Table B.
Table B from this. There's been a second. The conversation has to be germane to to removal of that, table B. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Is there any negative consequence to not making this decision today?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's not fee schedule set, so if you don't make the decision today, it would just stay as is. So there's not,
Well, we could postpone and say 30 days or whatever.
correct, we could talk about it at a committee or
It
whatever.
would delay, planning for some partners that want to rent it out sooner than later. There have been a few entities that want to discuss, renting it out, planning for next year. So it would delay that. I don't think it would kill us to do it. I mean, to delay it, it wouldn't be the end of the world to do that. Yeah, Councilmember Hess.
Director Colt, I'd like to have clarification in reference to if table B is taken out, community center all of a sudden becomes free.
Table D is community center, I broke it out. So that way we wouldn't, you guys can move the individual table.
Correction.
It's only good.
Any further questions? We have a motion second on here.
Comment.
With that, Councilmember Blair?
To address Councilmember Hess' question, my expectation is that we would hammer this out at the first study session of the year next month. If
Put it on
we,
there.
that's my intention anyway, is that we can have a robust discussion just regarding this and get it hammered out so that we're good to go and get it set and in a form that everyone can agree on.
Yeah, from the executive's perspective, we would absolutely put this on the first, study session. We'd want this, handled sooner than later. So, we would probably set it up for the first study session. If possible, we would add that to the, council agenda, if possible, at that first city council meeting of the year.
We have to take a vote.
Yes. Correct. I mean, but we'd set it up for that. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you. I want to remember correctly, when you brought this to the study session, it was not just to introduce new rates. It was to consolidate in one resolution all of the rates. So if we get rid of,
To the motion, please.
right, so my question is, are we gonna redo the whole resolution then after we say yes? Is that the idea? Because we still want to consolidate them.
Cody?
Yeah, so the benefit of this is I broke it into tables, so we would just pass a resolution later on with park fees. So we would have a separate resolution, it wouldn't be consolidated, but most of the rates would still be consolidated as the rest of the resolution.
Can we add back to this, though? I mean, amend.
Yeah, we can amend the resolution. Yeah, you can do an amendment to the resolution later on.
That makes me feel better. Thank you. That's all I've got.
All right, there's a motion second to remove table B from this item from resolution number 628. It's been motion second. Is there any further discussion? Call for the vote. We'll do a roll call vote since been a lot of discussion on this. Councilmember Blair, how do you vote? Yay? Nay?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman.
No.
You say no?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Hess,
No.
Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember Kaminsky,
No, it's my fault. I want to say yes, remove it for now, yes.
okay. Motion fails 4-3. Is that correct? All right, so Councilmember Richardson, Crossman, Smith, Crossman, Smith, S, and Brooks voted no, correct? Correct. So that's 4 votes against Richardson, yourself, and Blair for yes. 4-3. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're still,
We're just, oh, no.
yep, so that was, again, council, that was to remove table B, that motion failed. So we still have an option to pass as is or make a further amendment. Councilmember Smith.
Okay. I would like to suggest that we pass it, but with an amendment to maybe cut all of these in half.
That may make the impact. Are you being specific to a certain,
Let's ask, clarify.
yeah, Councilmember Crossman?
Question to help Smith. Can these fees be adjusted outside of council?
No, I think it was.
Because that would be, I think, right?
So if we wanted it just further, I mean, I'm not trying to tell council what to do. This is your decision on this. There's a few options we could do. We recall, find our recall.
We understand.
So what council could do, we could pass as is, and if we want to take another look at it, we could still hold this on the January 1st study session. If council wants to amend it at that point, we can do so. We kind of run the risk if we do want to, if an organization does sign a contract with us prior to that vote, it would be for the $500. They could roll that dice and see if council wants to lower it at that. Or you could vote currently as is right now, and leave it up to your call of whether you want to amend it in the future or not, or whether you want to do it. Councilmember Hess.
I just want to get a clarification on a question from Director Cole. These are just the fees for the nonprofit. They can still say, like for the Boy Scouts, they want to rent the park out. Right now, Yelm City Park, it's $500, but the Boy Scouts could say, we don't even as a nonprofit, we don't even make that kind of money. That can still be asked for a waiver, approved by the mayor. Mayor looks at his little table and says, I'm stuck with the table, sorry. The Boy Scouts can then come to the city council meeting and say, hey, we're your local Boy Scout troop. We just want to have the fee waived, so we can hold this particular event. And we as a council can say yay or nay to that. Is that the correct process on for a nonprofit?
Correct.
Thank you, Director Cole.
Councilmember Crossman.
Two things. Number one, yeah, just want to reiterate what he says. Yes, there was that verbiage put into it where there can be a waiver. Nonprofits. So with that, I move to approve resolution number 628.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hess. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Hold on.
There's still 3 more tables. I mean, I'm great with you guys passing it, but I think. I mean, if you guys want, actually, there's 4 more tables. If you guys want to pass it, that's okay. I think it might be beneficial to talk about the other tables before you, I mean, your call, council's call.
There's been a motion a second. It would take the original motion or to rescind his motion. You want?
What are the other ones? No, there's surprises, right? This is the one that everyone's concerned about. Everything else has been there, done that. Got t-shirt.
We have heard through it in the study session. We've all done that. Councilmember Hess.
Director Cole, for clarification, the follow-on tables are just bringing from previous resolutions. They are the current fees, no changes or anything else like that. Is that correct?
Minus the community center.
Minus community center. Okay.
Correct.
Which way?
Table D. You've seen table G, table F, table E several times. They haven't changed since you saw them in August, I think it was the first time we saw them. Table D is slightly adjusted. You have the same thing with government, nonprofit, other, and then the current rates on the right side. So you can see the changes.
So there is still a motion second.
Yep.
Is there any further questions? And since we're talking about the whole resolution as a whole, it would be acceptable to ask about any other sections.
With that motion, we're just re-clarifying, the nonprofit can come before council and get a waiver.
Correct. That is part of the resolution.
Want to say that clear again, because they're not.
Could you restate the motion?
Sure. The motion is to pass resolution 628 setting fees. Move to approve resolution 628 setting fees and repealing resolutions 358, 447, 585. It is this in its entirety. Resolution in its entirety.
James's motion was to remove.
And it failed. Just,
To remove that.
yep, it was, he made an amendment. It failed 4-3.
Okay.
We're back, now. It was motioned by Councilmember Crossman to pass as is, seconded by Councilmember Hess. And so that's what we're discussing at this point. So there's still a motion on the table in a second. Is there any further discussion?
Comment.
What?
I was just saying comment because the hand isn't working.
Councilmember Blair, go ahead.
I understand we're about to vote on this. I'm pretty firm. I think table B is too vague, doesn't have enough clarification, does not detail what is actually being rented. There's too much gray area in that table. I'm not seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in regards to the community center, I can't see whether there's charges for individuals, but I'm not on board for charging citizens to use the community center that they paid to build. And that's just where I'm at. So I'm not gonna vote yes on this as is.
Is there any further discussion? Councilmember
I
Kaminsky.
just want to understand that the group wants to pass as is, and we're not going to revisit and talk about.
That is the motion on the table right now. Correct.
Okay.
All
We're
right.
Going in a different direction.
Well, I mean, it's up to council, and at this point, there is,
Oh.
yeah, you can still, if you want to do something else, but at this point, there is a motion on the table to pass this. We have a motion, we have a second. Looks like discussion's about done. We're gonna call for the, we'll do a roll call vote. Again, just so council's clear, this is to pass resolution 628, setting fees as is. Councilmember Blair, how do you vote?
No.
Councilmember Richardson,
No.
Councilmember Crossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Hess,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Oh, no.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
No.
All right. All right, motion fails. We go 5-2. Motion fails 5-2. All right. Councilmember Hess.
Mayor, I would like to suggest that on the first study session, that we revisit this with a focus on table B and table D. Those are the community center and the park, if I'm correct, Nicole.
Thank you for
I
suggesting.
would like to ask that we have that put onto the study session so we can get it put together.
We're gonna add it anyway, but thank you. Any other questions, comments? Before we move on. Councilmember Brooks.
I really appreciate all the time you put into this already and the public comments that, and for sticking with us during this
I'm
time.
not usually this confused.
Nope.
Yeah, that was a good discussion. Yeah. This is why we have a council to decide these things and work them out. We will absolutely bring this back at our first study session. It delays some items, but it's not too much. We'll get it right this next time, hopefully, and we'll go. All right, with that being said, we will move on to item number 7, old business. It's not scheduled. Moving on to number 8, updates, departments. Mr. Stansel, please.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, a couple updates from the city. One, we have hired a planning and building manager. He will start with us January 1. His name is Gary Cooper. And we're very excited and we feel very fortunate we're able to get someone of his caliber with his experience. And so he will be there tomorrow at the holiday or their appreciation lunch, employee appreciation lunch tomorrow that all of you are invited to. Gary will be there tomorrow. So if you'd like to come by tomorrow and meet Gary, he'll be there. Multiple positions are open in the city now that the budget is passed. Most of those are in Cody's department. Some are new, some are replacements for departures. Street employees, we have 2 of those: collections technician, custodian, sewer.
Construction inspector.
Construction inspector. So those are open currently to the public. They went live today to the public today. So those are open, hoping to fill those, and by January timeframe would be fantastic. On the 21st, winter solstice, shortest day of the year, our large recreation department has put together a winter walk for
5 to 6 at Cochran Park with some hot chocolate. And the path is lighted, so you can come there between 5 to 6, get some hot chocolate and walk the path on the shortest day of the year to celebrate that. And it may be very cold on the 21st as well. So bring your coat. And then tomorrow is the last day to bring your canned goods into City Hall. Those of you who came in through the front, you may have seen all the gingerbread houses. I believe we have 19 out there. The way it works is that gingerbread houses were brought in and then folks bring in canned food and they put the canned food in boxes with the associated number of the gingerbread house. So in a sense, you're voting for the best gingerbread house by placing food. And today we had nearly a truckload of food get brought in. And it's back in the back room right now. So it's been very successful and it's been great seeing the gingerbread houses in the front lobby. Please check them out on your way out. That's all I got.
Cool.
Go ahead.
You're not gonna say to the end?
Almost done.
See y'all later. All right, council member reports or updates. We got Councilmember Blair. Anything update?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilor Richardson.
I attended the chamber forum today. Got to hear the Yelm High School Chamber Choir. It was fantastic, very good, very good. Really appreciate the community. I really appreciate everybody working together, even this crazy, confusing meeting. Great job, guys. Really, you know, we got to listen to each other. We got to listen to each other. Thank you guys for being here and expressing things. Thank you for that. Beyond that too, as well, I missed the senior breakfast at the senior center. I missed it, man. I forgot about it and had a Christmas rehearsal, so I didn't go there. I'll try to make it next month. What else is on this? Oh yeah, financial meeting. Stephanie Dice is just fantastic. You guys did a good job finding her. She's got some good accountability, and I love the transparency of where City Hall is going. It's very good. So, but with that said, I think that's it. And again, reiterate, I know you're working hard on that stuff, Cody. Thank you for that, and thank you for being patient with us. Give us more time to figure it out.
Thank you, Councilor Richardson. Councilor Crossman.
Comment and question, number one comment. Since we won't meet beforehand, Merry Christmas to everybody. And second, question was, what happened last few years? We lit the menorah in the park in celebration of Hanukkah. What happened with that? What did that transpire?
It will next week.
That's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
I just haven't seen anything posted about it.
I actually announced it today at the chamber luncheon. I just didn't have it on this list here. So yes, that will happen again.
We will put it on social media though for people to know.
Better show up.
Right.
A little later than normal.
Yeah. Councilor Smith.
All right, I attended the audit exit meeting. Stephanie already left. And we did good in that. Attended Christmas in the park. TCOM was canceled this month. Public safety was canceled. Tomorrow I'm going to the Southeast Thurston Fire Authority. They're going to be doing their interview to select a new commissioner for the vacancy. It's on there. And then last night with Todd, I always want to call you Chief Todd, the city administrator, Mr. Stansel and Terry Kaminsky. We attended the Thurston Emergency Management Seminar. So it was interesting. Food was good. No, it was, it's the second one I've been to, so that was kind of interesting. And
Chief
then-
Carlson was with us.
And Chief Carlson, yeah, thank you for that. And then the last thing I'm gonna bring up is, it was interesting, is I drove. And as Terry and I were, or Councilmember Kaminsky and I were coming back home, we came the back road through Tenino, and we were noticing all the lights in Tenino. And even the simple little things of they had these just string of lights going across like the road, you know, just up high. And so we were just curious, you know, we talked about that. We thought it would really be nice to light up Yelm, downtown Yelm more. And funny thing, about an hour before the council meeting, I got a message from a constituent saying, what's going on with the city? How come nothing's lit up? So yeah, it just, and then you come in, so it's like the trifecta. So I definitely think that's something that hopefully we can get more downtown. I don't know what the whole process is, but you know.
Yeah, we are planning to light up the trees next year.
gonna be lit.
It will be lit.
Okay.
There's a lot of Christmas stuff that we'll be doing next year. I don't really have a great excuse besides that
I told her that.
we reevaluated, yeah. And just to also say, a lot of times it is businesses that light up their own places too.
True.
So a lot of these other cities, like I heard someone say Bogota had a bunch of lights up. I guarantee Bogota is not spending their budget on Christmas lights, the few thousand they have.
And I know there's a cost, but
Yeah.
I was thinking like the little things across the street, the
Yeah.
garlands with the
We
lights.
can-
I
yeah.
can't imagine that would cost too much, but I don't know. Obviously.
The actual thing isn't much to do, but the labor also associated.
And I
does
understand.
cost. But yeah, we budgeted for it. We are gonna make it, it's gonna be lit next year.
Gonna be lit.
Councilmember Crossman.
Yeah, I totally forgot a space on this and I'm sorry. At the lighting of the tree, I want to say a big thank you to all the city staff with pictures with Santa. I thought it went extremely well. It was packed, it was a long line, but it went fast. I thought it went fast. For as many people and, the city staff did awesome. I thought, well, kudos to them. It was a great thing on that aspect. I don't know, some other things were not so much. I think that part we excelled at.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Crossman. Lots of good things that happened there. But yeah,
That was it.
thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember S.
Yes, for the Public Service Committee, there's a lot that this past year, a lot has been going on. We've been talking about in reference to code adjustments and changes so that we can finally start working on the development, having managed development within our community. And so, Director Colt, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure this year. First time as a council member working with you. I will say, I don't know how many other council members might have noticed, but with you there, Director Colt, just the changes you've made, what you've done, I've seen a major change since 2004, since I've been in the community, of how that department has run. Much more efficient, looking at things a lot better. I don't know if it's just administration putting out priorities or what, but you've done a wonderful job. And it's been a pleasure working with you this year, and I look forward to next year working more.
It's mostly administration, but no, Cody's been great as.
It's mostly the council. So thank you.
There's been a lot of discussions going on this past year, and last month, Table B was a big discussion that we had. We won't be having a meeting this month, so that will be hopefully a study session. We will get that hashed out. Also, because it falls under the department, your department, the communications falls under administration, but the recreation person is Lynn.
Another executive. Yeah.
Executive, but because you brought it up as the recreation, I just want to put out there that she's working really well at trying to take over, and I hate that term take over, but there are a lot of things, Santa, as you brought up, there's a lot of things that the community has kind of been slipping on. And I understand a lot of the history with some of those events. She is stepping up. She's trying to become the coordinator for that. So that is a really good thing. I'm glad to see that that's happening on that front. Last week was Menton Week for First Special Forces Group. I enjoyed all the events except for I wasn't able to make it to the ball. It was wonderful to meet up with a lot of old friends there, talking with some of them that I remember as young NCOs when I used to mentor them that are now leaders. We had some really good discussions. They're looking forward to really being brought into the city and all that. For the Intercity Transit Authority, we just got done passing the budget. Just to let you know, the Intercity Transit Authority, the bus system, they are in the process of bringing on more employees. They're bringing in a lot more resources. I would say they're probably up to pre-pandemic level of about 90% resources, which means that the resolution that was passed a few years ago of increasing fees to be able to bring on more services, hopefully this year you will start seeing that happen. You'll start seeing more bus lines being brought into play. some adjustments being done there. So that'll be a really nice thing to see, coming up for the year.
Did they also pass the, letter against the airport?
There was discussion about that. Yes, they passed support for the Thurston Regional Planning Commission to support them on that,
It's supported or against it?
to support what that committee is wanting, that commission is wanting to do.
Oh, I thought that letter was opposing the airport.
No, supporting what the commission wants to do of closing the airport.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's why I said the Thurston Regional Planning Commission, they were.
And Yelm was the lone no vote?
I will, yes, I will gladly, address that. It's because my no vote is not that I am supporting or not supporting the airport. The no vote was because we are digging our heels in so far right now. And we are not looking, we're not looking at the process. We're looking at something that's gonna happen 20 years from now. The issues that are coming up, there's not enough infrastructure. 20 years from now, infrastructure will be developed, can be developed. And a variety of other things. My no vote was because I feel that as public servants, people who are representing the people, yes, the people don't want it, but we are not clearly expressing the process. Constantly, it's stated it's an international airport to compete with SeaTac. Incorrect. It's a 2-runway regional airport, not the size of SeaTac. It is to help alleviate some of the traffic at SeaTac so that SeaTac is able to continue to provide service. Yes, we have the CAC provided 3 green space for airports, 2 of them in Pierce, 1 in Thurston. They also discussed expansion of a few other airfields. Those are things that are being discussed. This has been a process that's been going on for 2 years. The pandemic threw the wrench into the whole thing. And the fault of why it is such a surprise, big surprise to everybody, is because the media didn't cover it correctly. People weren't discussing it correctly. Again, it was because the pandemic, it kind of slipped. And my no vote, as I expressed during the meeting, is because we need to focus on the process. We need to ensure that we're putting out correct information and things like that.
So I appreciate that, but. So I'm against it. I've been putting the city against it from my perspective.
Point of order.
Go ahead, Councilmember Blair.
Point of order is what he said.
What's your point?
Mayor DePinto, in the past, you have made the same point to a previous mayor. It's inappropriate to be questioning a council member's vote. Even on a committee, he has every right to vote how he feels, and this isn't appropriate.
Point of order is well received. I don't believe that's a point of order, but to my point, I understand where you're coming from. In a vote here in the city council, 100%. In a vote where you're representing the city of Yelm externally, I would disagree with that. And part of that is my fault for not being more clear and having an actual vote. And to that point, I do think we will, I will ask council to take a vote on it, what they believe the city should officially be for or against this airport. We will have that in January. Councilmember Crossman.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. I would back Councilmember Hess's vote there because us as a council did not come to a resolution that the mayor made that decision, the city as a city, and you have every right to do that, but us as a council did not. So I would back Councilmember Hess's vote because since we did not decide that as a council, one way or another, I'm not saying I'm one side or another. Sure. I'm just saying since we did not, I think he has every right to, and that we should do that, one way or the other, get that full.
It should have been an abstination though. It shouldn't have been a yes or no vote. The council didn't vote against it either, right? So he's representing his own personal, so it shouldn't have been yes or no. It probably should have been abstained for the vote. And again, this is my fault for not forcing an official vote for the council prior to this. I do understand, and I do want to make clear, council, when you're representing city of Yelm and outside agencies and outside groups, that you're not representing your personal opinions, you're representing the city as a whole. And if we haven't taken an official, or the council hasn't taken an official position on it, you should probably abstain and report back to council and ask for that, whatever position we are on. Fair? Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Councilmember Hess, is there any other, besides in our local, or inner city transit?
Regional Housing Commission is meeting tomorrow and one more meeting. I can't remember which committee it is, but we're having one more meeting tomorrow as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Hess. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you. I attended the Regional Economic Forecast and Innovation Expo with our city administrator and our mayor on December 1st. That was enlightening in each little session, breakout session. I also attended Christmas in the Park for the tree lighting as well. And then I attended the Rotary Social at the local. That was really great too. And I look forward to more of that. And just like the other council member, I attended the City of Yelm exit meeting for their audit. And then of course, tons of fundraisers in between. What I do. What did you do?
Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I took up my invite through the city email to attend the Olympia Master Builders annual meeting and dinner and had a very lovely evening. It's very nice. I attended Christmas in the Park and I enjoyed the choir along with my hot dog. And I also, that's an inside joke. I attended with Holly and Todd, the Thurston County Emergency Meeting Council Executive Seminar. We mostly talked about the fires and the flooding in the area. So it was my first meeting with them. It was interesting. And also on the way back home, even nicer, I have to say, than Tenino, Rainier had every single building just lit up. It was just, even though it's short and small, it was just beautiful. So great holiday spirit. And that is my report.
Perhaps we can organize with the chamber to do more lighting up too for businesses
Well, we
around.
have done that in the past. It's been better than it is now, but.
Or just blame it on the chamber.
Santa, could you just go
Can
around?
we just?
On that.
And there's a couple of other white beards in there.
Yeah, see.
Multiply.
For my report, met with Leadership Thurston County, their group did a panel on that with some other mayors. Also did the exit audit. Very happy with how it went out. Thank you, council members, for attending. Brooks and Smith were the two, I believe, on it. Yeah, Stephanie did a great job. Our finance team in general did a great job on that. Tomorrow we got our Thanksmas appreciation for our city staff. Council's more than welcome to attend that and encouraged to attend if you can. It's at noon at the community center. 11:30, excuse me, at the community center. We'll be recognizing employees for their time of service to the city. We got people just from a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so. Resolve probably the last. And then all the way up to what, 30 years? 30
something.
years, yeah. I thought it was like 31.
Oh, yeah, Donna's
Donna's
31, I think.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy that someone's given that many years of service to this community and city. So yeah, please attend that if you can. And yesterday had Cub Scouts come in. We did a little thing on thank you for showing up, and they sat in your seats. It was pretty cute. And we talked about what city council and mayor does and city stuff and all that. So it was cool. Toward the TCOM building, where they do dispatch out of in Lacey, Olympia. No, it's Olympia. In Olympia, and yeah, for all of Thurston County, and they route those calls. So it was interesting to see that setup. It was kind of neat. It's pretty dark in there. It's like a bat cave. But they have all these different screens for all the different things, and it was pretty neat. And then lastly, it's our last meeting. It's crazy. It's been a year now. For most of y'all, some of you are a little bit less than a year, but it's been a good ride, and hopefully next year, we learn a lot from this year. We're always trying to improve. Councilmember Richard said we'll do better, and that's what we're learning. And so, yeah, a lot of good things learned. Other than that, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, and for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Councilor Crossen beat my hair. Second by Councilor Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.